Dark matter is a hypothetical substance that makes up approximately 85% of the matter in our current universe, but for some reason we cannot confirm its existence, since it does not interact with the electromagnetic force. This in turn means it does not absorb, reflect, or emit light, making it extremely hard to spot or even prove its existence. And the only reason us as a species believe in its existence is the unexplained nature of the forces of gravity. So, in this hypothetical of what if Naruto had dark matter or dark matter release, we will be stepping into something closer to a gravitational pull with some fictional spins on the concept of dark matter, which would more closely link it to antimatter. So if you do see some crosses in that little gray section between the two, that is the reason, just to spice the what if up a little bit more. But I've been blabbering on long enough with the explanation, so let's get into this. After the failed bridge arc mission to retrieve Sasuke Uchiha, Team 7, now consisting of Naruto, Sakura, and Yamato or Tenzin, would return to the Leaf to reveal the information that they had been betrayed by fellow team member Sai. Sai was suspected of being a spy for the group, more likely Naruto Uzumaki, but in this case it was revealed that Danzo's true intentions lied with saving Orochimaru, or at least some sort of the deal, since Sai was last seen running off with Orochimaru's right hand. Thus it could be believed that Danzo himself had betrayed the Leaf. Lady Tsunade would now take the opportunity to assemble a task force to raid a Foundation base. As this would happen, it would be discovered that this base had probably been dormant for years, since it had no sign of being touched or moved or even interacted with by wildlife, as they could see that Danzo had probably never used it in the first place, and instead used it as a front to cover up if he had ever shown his true intentions. So now, this task force, consisting of mostly Anbu and high-level Jonin, are prioritizing setting out to find the Foundation and its true base. Yet, since Danzo had not heard from Sai, he is currently in hiding, unsure that if the Leaf had discovered him or not. On the other hand, we see that Sai had just been executed, you could say, after we see him trying to attack Sasuke. But it wasn't Sasuke that had executed him. As Sai made his attempt on Sasuke's life, a white snake coming out of Kabuto's sleeve would turn into a sword of sorts, as it would be accompanied by what seems to be Orochimaru's head, piercing Sai's arm. As it pierced Sai's arm, he had realized that Orochimaru had in fact not been killed by Naruto, or at least not destroyed to the degree he had previously assumed. This leaves him in a compromisable position. Trying to escape and all, he would discover that he had not actually been attacked by Orochimaru, but put under a genjutsu of Sasuke's. By the time he's able to release the genjutsu on himself, he sees many individuals surrounding him, all with the blades surrounding his head. Even the smallest nudge to the side would result in his throat being slit. This is where a conversation would continue, or at least start up. This conversation would be consistent of a lot of questions being asked on the side of Sasuke, wanting to know about Naruto. Sai unfortunately could answer every single question, since it had nothing related to Danzo going on in the background. So, Sai would answer honestly and truthfully, and at the end he would be released from a genjutsu to see that there was only one individual in front of him. he had thought to have broken out of a previous genjutsu, only to be stuck in a Sharingan genjutsu, one much more powerful than the average, as a sword from Sasuke would pierce his throat, leaving him for dead. This is why, in fact, he did not send any word back to Danzo, and that leaves the current raids on all Foundation known areas. Naruto would have accompanied one or two of these, but would have eventually needed to come back, as he had not slept once since their return, wanting his revenge on Danzo and his minions for screwing up yet another retrieval mission for his comrade Sasuke. Naruto, once hitting the hay, would be asleep for 2 solid days. At least that's what he would think as he had awakened. But before this period, he had actually been making his way through the village. It was rather odd, in fact, as when he awakened, a day or a night after he had initially fallen asleep, he would have spontaneously looked at his hands, saying, "Where am I? Why do I look like this?" Spontaneously looking around the room. I apologize for myself stuttering. He would then eventually come across a mirror to see his blonde-headed self and would say, "I'm in control of the boy's body." He would lift his shirt to reveal a seal as he would say, "This is my chance." But as his hand comes closer and his chakra comes into contact with the seal, his hand is thrown back. What is this? Could it be that this is an interactive seal that can only be released with another seal? But where is it? As he starts destroying everything in the room. He does not find what he is looking for and says screw it. He'll force himself out of this body, as he would run to the edges of the leaf. He would attempt to release as much chakra from the seal as possible, as he would be overwhelmed by a purple cloak. After this occurs, he would fall back onto the ground as Naruto would wake up, seemingly 2 days later, not in his room, but in a field. Obviously, he wonders how he got there, but he himself had been known for sleepwalking, so he would shrug it off to being nothing, and would return home, and thus also return to helping search for the Foundation. But nevertheless, this would eventually occur. They would eventually, maybe weeks or even months later, find an operating Foundation base where they would be able to discover at least some clues to the whereabouts of Danzo. The whereabouts is somewhere within the village, somewhere surprising. And now the time of suspense had passed as we find out Danzo had been hiding in a secret chamber underneath the Hokage office all along. It turns out the specific base they were in now and many others had actually secret tunnels traveling underneath Konoha to the Hokage Manor, where Danzo was able to observe the village to make sure that it was safe, of course. But at current time, they come up with a plan. They will, from all directions, go in on Danzo, with Naruto being all too excited, taking off long ahead of schedule from the rest. He would use his gravity enhancement to travel with extreme speed, and upon entering this secret chamber, I guess you could call it, he would be tearing apart, you could say, different Anbu level fighters of the Foundation, ones personally picked to guard Danzo. No one was all too happy of Naruto's appearance, since many of them had thought they would be able to handle the tailed beast, or at least its Jinchuriki. But no, Naruto had been destroying most of them, without even using his tailed beast's power. And when he eventually comes upon Danzo, a conversation would start out. Danzo would reveal that he had in fact been the one to wipe out the Uchiha threat in the village, and Sasuke was just a last little knot he had to get rid of in his thread called Konoha, or at least his plan for it. Naruto would grow enraged as the unstable Rasengan we had learnt him to have during this time would start forming in his hand once again. But along with it, a red chakra stream coming from his seal up to his mind. Danzo, who's observing all this with his Sharingan, would be surprised. He had initially thought that Naruto would gain a cloak or something, but instead, this stream of red chakra is replacing the purple chakra, the odd chakra Naruto is known to have, as it strings up his chakra network all the way to his mind. But Naruto would not be standing still, as he would be approaching Danzo at high speeds. But almost near contact with Danzo, we would see Naruto's features intensify as his eyes turn red. And almost in an instant, the unstable Rasengan we had seen previously, Danzo would be able to perceive it all as it turns black, 3 different orbs of chakra surrounding it, as it slams into his body. And along with it, he hears petrification for humans, as this Bijudama, as we know it, would explode out of Naruto's hand. Danzo would at least be assumed to be dust at this point, as Kurama, who is now in control of Naruto's body, would look at his hands once again. This time I was able to kill someone, unlike last time. Where are we this time? As he looks around in the lab of Danzo. He would see Sharingan lining the walls as he would say, "So this is what they did to the Uchiha." As he would see Danzo appear once again, ready to fight. Kurama would be happy to give up a fight, but each time he would seemingly kill Danzo with either claws to the head, a destructive jutsu, or even blatantly snapping his neck. This would cause confusion in the Ninetales, as Danzo would eventually unveil his arm and what laid beneath his bandages, a Mangekyo Sharingan with Sharingan aligning his arms. Kurama at this point had gotten rid of a solid 4 Sharingan, but there were still many to do. But, on the other hand, Danzo could not lose many more, as he doesn't know the threat Naruto might pose in the future. So he would attempt to use his Genjutsu to get both the Ninetales and Naruto under his control, or at least his influence. As his Sharingan spins, the ability of his eye that he had stolen approximately 8 years ago activates. Kurama, controlling Naruto's body, would be dragged into some sort of pit, Danzo and another figure standing in front of him. At first, it is thought to be a younger version of Danzo, an observation made by the Ninetales, but then he can distinguish their chakra. This was an Uchiha. Shishui Uchiha. Kurama would not know whom this is, but he could tell this is a powerful genjutsu, as he could not even move. His breathing starts getting heavy, and it feels like a flurry of information enters his mind. Somewhat of a loyalty factor Danzo is trying to implant onto him, but the Ninetales, nevertheless, was able to resist. He had experience with being controlled by visual prowess, and the person wielding this one, even though having a strong connection to it, is not in full control, or has not used it enough to use it on Kurama, and is able to break the control as Danzo would jump away, being frightened that this might cause his death, or at least more of his deaths. Naruto, or at least Kurama in his body, would fall to his knees as the chakra is starting to fade away. He would breathe heavy as more shinobi would finally storm the room. One medical shinobi, being Tsunade herself, would run up to Naruto asking if he is okay, as she sentenced all the other Anbu to retrieve any bodies they could find and track Danzo while they're at it. Kurama would say that first they must get rid of all the other shinobi around the area in the closest mimic that he can to Naruto's voice, saying that when he came in here, he wasn't able to take all of them out, so getting rid of them first might be an essential. On the other hand, Danzo's not far, so she should also pursue him. He'll be right there. He was only caught off guard, and is now a little out of breath. He would sport his signature smile, throwing a thumbs up while he's at it, saying, "I'll be right behind you," as he would attemptedly stand up. Tsunade would nod as she tells the Anbu to scatter and search as she would run ahead. This leaves Kurama thinking, "Doing that kid's voice is annoying, but I can feel him taking back control. I must move quickly. Kurama gives off some sort of giggle as he is now left to his own devices and can do whatever he wants within the confines of this room. At first, one would assume that Kurama would attempt to destroy the Sharingan-filled wall so that he can never be put under that accursed genjutsu again, never to be controlled by another Sharingan user throughout his existence. But no. Instead, he will embrace his weakness, as he would grab one of the jars. He would say that this would have to do, as he would pluck the eyeballs from inside. What you might be wondering is he doing is actually a community decision. As you could see right here, I had done a series of polls to determine what Naruto would do within this situation. And through the influence of plot armor and Kurama would decide to take the Sharingan to give some sort of counter to it in the future and see what he as a tailed beast would be able to change of it. As he knows, while Madara had access to both his own power and that of the Nine Tails, he was able to achieve unfathomable feats. So what if it was the other way around? Kurama with Madara's power. He would be unstoppable, no? And that's what leads us to this situation. Kurama would gouge out his own, or at least Naruto's eyes, to only replace it with that of the Sharingan. He would look at himself in the reflections of all these jars, as he would replace Naruto's eyes where this used to be. He places it back on the wall as he would focus as much of the remaining chakra he has to his eyes, as it would return not to red, as his usual slits are, but to the crown blue that we know Naruto's eyes to be. He would feel his consciousness fade away, as he knows he was successful in hiding the Sharingan, at least from this boy. Naruto now stands faced with this wall in disgust. He could remember the conversation him and Danzo had, knowing that this wall is here because he slaughtered the Uchiha, or he slaughtered the Uchiha to achieve this wall. And as soon as Tsunade re-enters the room, she would see an unstable Rasengan meet the middle of the wall, destroying every single eye in some sort of a massive explosion, as even Naruto was engulfed with it. His body has cuts all over as he was disgusted by the sight. This is why Sasuke left. His family and friends were all on this wall, and it's all Danzo's fault. Naruto could now be seen falling to the ground, smacking his fist into it every chance he got. Tsunade, who had witnessed all this, would run up to someone she perceives as a grandchild, trying to comfort him. Of course, it would have been beneficial if these eyes had survived, as she could have done a study to perhaps cure something like even blindness. But she understood. These eyes needed to be gotten rid of to make sure they never fall into the wrong hands, and thus would comfort Naruto. But if you want to know how the story would change due to Naruto having the Sharingan, or at least having the Sharingan without knowing he does, Kurama having somewhat control over Naruto's body at times, and even what this would impact the story through interactions with Sasuke and other characters, well, to find out, you would have to stick around till the next part, since this is the end. And as you could see there, this was in fact a decision made by the community to give Naruto the Sharingan throughout this series. Since I really do want y'all to make more decisions going forward, I will be doing this a lot more often, so remember to not only check out these videos, but also to keep an eye out on the community tab. Now I've blabbered on long enough, it's time to give the members their due. Thank you to everybody you see on screen right here for giving me the opportunity to use YouTube as a form of creative outlet and still getting a, financial benefit from it. But this is not only extended into a thanks, but also a reveal that soon the members' exclusive content, for example, what if Naruto and Ino got together instead, and what if Ichigo got with Yoruichi, shall be released to channel members. So if you want a first seat chance to see any of those, consider becoming a member yourself. And without further ado, this has been your boy Six. Peace.
1, 2, 3, let's go! subscribe for more.
Yada yada does it.